Last week, Joe Biden announced a new set of gun control executive actions. Today, we do a deep dive in those and how they could potentially affect gun owners and the potential of future gun sales. This is your April 13th Not So News update. Please like and subscribe if you're looking for daily news content, and let's dive on in. Starting us off from CNN Politics, Biden announces new executive actions on gun control. Essentially what we're going through is we see that Manchin has applauded the Biden executive action, but won't commit to supporting House background check bill. Biden announces a new target on ghost gun and braces for pistols. Schumer, Biden's actions not a substitute for meaningful legislation to address gun violence. And White House, there will be more administration actions to address gun violence. Overall, we've seen in the last, starting last Friday when the executive actions were first announced, a lot of new regulations coming when it looks at gun control legislation and executive action. It's going to be interesting to see if any of these get challenged, as well as if we look we're going to see a couple of states that aren't big fans of the legislation being passed and what that means for ATF support. So if we go to whitehouse.gov, we see a fact sheet regarding the new legislation. We're just going to look at the bulleted aspects and go through these one by one. The Justice Department within 30 days will issue a proposed rule to help stop the proliferation of ghost guns. So we're going to do a look at what ghost guns are and how much they affect gun violence currently. Justice Department within 60 days will issue a proposed rule to make clear whether a device marketed as a stabilizing brace effectively turns a pistol into a short barreled rifle subject to the requirements of National Firearms Acts. We're going to look at how much stabilizing braces affect gun violence and how often they're used. Justice Department within 6 days will publish model red flag legislation for states. We'll look at a case study of this specifically in Maryland and how that affects gun crime. The administration is investigating an evidence-based community violence interventions. I will not be jumping into this. This is specifically dealing with different budgets. They specifically mentioned the American Jobs Plan, which proposes $5 billion in investment over 8 years to support community violence. All the more reason to not be a big fan of that, as that has been targeted as infrastructure. So I guess gun violence is infrastructure now. Justice Department will issue an annual report on firearms trafficking. We won't be diving into this one too much. Specifically, this is more just keeping statistics, which personally I actually am a big fan of this. I want more statistics for making educated inferences on how much this stuff will actually affect your everyday American. And finally, the president will nominate David Chipman to serve as director of the of ATF, essentially. Notably, when this was announced, Biden did not know the acronym, or mixed up the acronym ATF, calling it AFT. Hopefully, David knows the correct acronym for what he is being the chairman of. This one, again, we will not be jumping into, as it really is more just a symbolic thing. They didn't really have a confirmed director since 2015. However, there's been individuals serving in the role since then. So first, we're going to be looking at ghost guns. So what are ghost guns? Ghost guns are fully functional firearms that can be made at home using parts and kits that are available to purchase from gun dealers or through online vendors. The key components of the firearm is a receiver, which hold parts that enable it to actually shoot, such as hammer, bullet, or breech block and firing mechanism. Ghost guns are made using receivers that are not technically finished and require a few additional steps at home. Essentially what it is, it's like a Lego kit for building your own gun. They're currently legal. They're being made essentially that they're going to be made that they follow the same gun legislations that we currently have. So they specifically go into why are ghost guns a problem. They do not mention anything regarding current deaths or crimes that are committed with ghost guns, and specifically what they're saying is that there's a rise in that they can't track them. And there is a consistent use of them in crime. However, as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been too many mass shooting incidents that had ghost guns. And honestly, I think the biggest thing that you can note from reading this, what are the frequently asked questions of ghost guns is, why is there not a per capita statistic given in an article like this? This was written April 2nd, so about 10 days ago. This kind of does, portray that Biden was using stuff like this when it came to his ghost gun executive action. However, you would think for when you're looking at how much ghost guns affect gun control, why is that not a statistic that's being given? Probably, and this is just my prediction, because it's not a substantial impact on gun legislation and gun crimes. Routinely what we see when it comes to gun regulations is a majority of gun violence, gun crimes, gun homicides are done using basic pistols in city environments, and gun control will never target those specifically because it's the easiest guns to get, and obviously you're not going to attack the most common thing. Facing GOP pressure, the ATF canceled review of devices now implicated in 2 mass shootings. This is specifically looking at the grips that are added to different pistols. So they go into how the change is done. Specifically what it is a brace and barrel that's added to a pistol to give it a rifle-like effect. They have a couple pictures in it that go into the different or how it's used. This was done on March 30th, so another predictor that it was going to be in Biden's executive actions. And there is a tax done on the grip to make it so there is some type of oversight already being done. Specifically what's going on is they're making it so these grips are being legislated in a similar way to rifles. They do they do note in the article that this was used in the recent Boulder shooting. However, outside of that, I'm not aware of recent violence that was done using the grips. And specifically, if you look at this, the reason why is because notably they're not very let's say common. Most individuals, once again, when committing gun violence, are going to just use your basic pistol with no modifications. Once again, this is kind of just gun control that's targeted for gun control's sake, and in my opinion not going to make any meaningful change on the statistics of gun crimes within the United States. Republicans push to make Texas a Second Amendment sanctuary state. We're looking at this specifically because Governor Abbott has announced and support for a House bill that says that Texas is going to be turned into a gun or a Second Amendment sanctuary state. This is similar to how we've seen California in the past said that they were going to be a like border or immigrant sanctuary state for anyone that crosses the border illegally. Filed earlier this month, a state house bill backed by Governor Greg Abbott would turn Texas into a so-called Second Amendment sanctuary state. In other words, the bill, if passed, would forbid Texas state agencies and other bodies from enforcing new federal gun laws or rules proposed. Some advocacy groups have criticized the bill's primary author, State Representative Justin Holland, a Republican from Heath, said that House Bill 2622 comes at a time when it's necessary to step up and protect the Second Amendment rights in Texas. According to a press release, if enacted, the bill seeks to bar any state agency or political subdivision from enforcing new federal gun laws, orders, rules, or regulations that do not already exist in Texas law. It's going to be interesting to see how this is criticized on a national stage, specifically from individuals that were fine with the illegal immigration sanctuary states. It seems that we kind of need to make a decision whether states are required to follow federal law or not. I expect there to be a ton of hypocrisy coming in the future months for individuals that try to say that this is bad, but what states were doing with immigration were perfectly fine. Next, we're going to be looking at the case study of Maryland when it comes to red flag laws. 2 years in, Maryland leads most other states in the use of red flag gun laws. Specifically, we're just going to look at the statistics for this. In the 2 years since the law took effect, October 1st, 2018, Maryland courts have granted 989 extreme risk protective orders, an average of about 8.2 orders per year per 100,000 residents. Only Florida has used it more, about 9.4 orders per 100,000 residents. Maryland has used it twice as much as the next highest state, New Jersey. So it's really interesting to actually say that Florida is one of the highest states when it comes to red flag laws, and then followed by Maryland, and then it seems every other state is significantly less. So this would lead an individual to believe that Maryland probably has dropped significantly Looking at gun deaths per capita by state in 2021, we see that Maryland is straight in the middle, and we would expect that it is not significant. The requirements made with red flag gun legislation. Finally, we want to look at one story that's been hitting us all. Hunter Biden should be charged for lying on his own gun application. It's been announced that Hunter Biden lied when he filed for his background check, specifically saying that he was not having a history of illegal drug use when he bought a handgun in 2018. It seems awfully hypocritical for us to have the President of the United States stating that we need to enforce further gun control legislation when his own son is breaking the law currently and not being charged for it. It was just done in 2018, so I'm assuming the statute of limitations has not been closed on this particular issue. And it makes you wonder what the actual reason for this gun control legislation is. If the common citizen is expected to follow gun control legislation, it seems that the president's own son should be held accountable too. If we want to expect that this current administration actually cares about gun legislation, it needs to start here. If he wants to jail your average day citizen for lying on a background check, it needs to start with his son. And this is your April 13th News Update. Once again, please like and subscribe if you're looking for daily news content, and have a good one.